Ciao, my name is Sherry Roush, and I'm the translator of Jacopo Caviceo's Peregrino, which may have been the first novel dedicated to a woman, Lucrezia Borgia, in 1508. In the passage I'm going to read, a female character, Elisabetta, gives Peregrino some unsolicited love advice by means of another story about two earlier lovers. Here goes. Word has it, in France, there is the most celebrated school in all the world. A girl studied there, and she was in no way inferior in knowledge to Sappho. A youth of the same land was so taken with her that he burned to satisfy her every wish. Night and day he suffered, trying various ways to soften her resistance. In the end, his countless pleas and requests overcame her, and she agreed to meet briefly with him, not to commit herself to him, mind you, but to free herself from his attentions. The wretched lover appeared before his beloved lady, and she interrogated him about his actions, habits, and plans for life. The poorly prepared youth replied that he hadn't any other intention than to flirt with her. The prudent maiden, who had higher aims, told him it wasn't right for a nobleman to abandon virtue for lust. Therefore, she informed him, if he wished to pursue his amorous quest, he must dedicate himself entirely to a philosophical education, which deifies men on earth. Should he acquire greater culture, he might then see with how much love he'd be embraced. That calculating youth understood what was required and expected of him, and he chose on the spot not to follow love any more if he couldn't be what his lady most desired. Humbly taking her leave, he threw himself with the greatest enthusiasm and care into his philosophical studies, to the point that at the end of their third year, he equaled or surpassed all the other youths in the school. Believing he had met his lady's worthy conditions, he requested to speak with her again, since he was now the most highly educated youth of the land. Well, that lady was the sort who believed that to fail was a shame, so to give in to him would be as good as death. Thus she resorted to a new stratagem to deal with her young suitor, which she explained through the iron bars of a window when he presented himself in her garden. He laid out his case, requesting from her the promised reward, insisting he not be refused what he'd earned only with great toil and sweat. The lady responded in this way, greatly beloved, every human care, mindful of itself and the initial impetus of its studies, aims to learn as much as possible in order to grow in good habits in this mortal life. I see such prudence in you that you should be able to satisfy my desire. May it not annoy you to help me to understand, please, what the male nightingale does when it separates from the female after mating. I await your answer once you have consulted your books, whenever it should please you. The late hour, the difficulty of the question, and his lack of familiarity with such matters made the young man's head spin. He said his goodbyes and returned home, where he ruminated 1,000 times over all the books he could find about fauna until he became anxious, vexed, and pensive. He could find nowhere the precise answer to her question and wanted to die, even more so because a mere girl seemed to surpass him in his vaunted studies in natural science. He continued to ponder, emitting frequent sighs, when one day he encountered, by chance, a little old woman on the street. This bawd had spent her whole life as a procuress, as wily, filthy, and clever a one as nature could produce. Seeing the furrowed brow of the youth she had known for a long time, she inquired if his relatives were healthy and well. Yes, the young man answered, and she, so what's the cause of your consternation? Woe is me, wailed the youth. I wish I'd never been born. Hearing this, the old lady was shocked and moved to motherly commiseration and begged him not to keep hidden the cause of his suffering. Overcome by her insistence, he told her about the riddle his beloved lady had posed and how his thoughts had led him to the verge of death. Then the old woman smiled and said to him, "My son, do not despair. You won't lose your desired reward out of ignorance. It's the custom of the nightingale never to engage the female in the carnal act except on a green branch next to one that's dry. As soon as he is mated, he immediately flies away from the green branch and alights on the dry one, where he rights his tail, preens his feathers, and sings out rather raucously. From there he rushes to some water to clean himself. While I was a young girl, I served the best naturalist of this city, and to amuse myself, I'd listen at his table to disputes on this kind of material. I still remember it, along with other topics that, between us, would better remain unsaid. Son, be strong in your determination, because not only will your philosophical answers satisfy your young beloved, it'd pass muster with the school of philosophy as well." He thanked the old woman and went away happier and more contented than Caesar after the battle of Pharsalus. He sent word to his beloved that the time had come to expound the answer to her proposed question. The lovers set the time at their usual meeting place. They exchanged affectionate greetings and pleasantries with well wishes for their families and other typical topics. Then the young man began, "My lady, although your query was profound, difficult, and subtle, I was still able to elaborate a response in my mind, weak as it is, and bring it clearly to light. If your judgment sees any fault, may you not be too annoyed to freely let me know, so I might give it even more diligent study." After these few words, he repeated what he had learned from the old woman. The young woman, unable to do otherwise, commended his study and praised the man, saying to him, "Most beloved, I could give you no greater reward in return, nothing bigger, more generous, and more appropriate than what you will hear now. And it's this. If you've understood and absorbed well the meaning of this example, you'll take it as the finest moral lesson. May it prompt you to put aside what grieves you so. All those who mate with females on green branches signify those caught in sensual love. After their eager appetite is satisfied, they fall to the dry branch, that is, into oblivion of true love, and become sad and slothful. They think no more of the pleasure they had possessed. Consider that out of love for me, you made yourself an educated and highly regarded man. While you continue to persevere in this virtuous love, you will always strive to accomplish similarly good and praiseworthy works. But if you satisfied your frothy lust, you'd forget how to live in a manner that is good and upstanding. Since I don't want what happened to the nightingale to happen to you, I wish you a long life in this amorous expectation." Thank you.